Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Enneagram and Coaching. I'm Hillary, your certified Enneagram life coach that loves to teach you guys the Enneagram in the simplest way possible. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to learn about the blind spots of every single type, all 9 types. And here's the deal. There are a bunch of different paths your number can travel down, right? So I'm going to use myself for an example just to kind of like help you guys understand where these are coming from in each type. So I'm a type 9, and when I am healthy, I travel down the path going towards the healthy side of the 3. And when I am stressed, I travel to the average, to the unhealthy side of the 6. And so right there, the 9 goes to the 3 in health, the 9 goes to the 6 in stress. Where does this blind spot come from? So some of the blind spots I will teach about today for each type comes from the average to unhealthy part of your healthy arrow. Does that make sense? And so what we're going to be looking at today is the path that you travel down, you know, that average to unhealthy side of what would normally be your health path. So for me, that means, you know, as a type 9, not only can I use the healthy parts of the 3, I even use the average to unhealthy parts of the 3. And that's what we call my blind spot. But here's the deal. That's not all I'll be teaching about today. Some of the blind spots just are because, you know, I'm a type 9 and I am blind to them. So some of this is going to be coming from, you know, that health arrow that average unhealthy side of the health arrow, which we'll call your blind spot path. And some of this might just be because in your number, you might be blind to it. So does that make sense? I hope that this is easy for you to understand. I'm trying to break it down so that you can see the clear picture. And here's the deal. The reason why I'm teaching these is because the blind spots, you might not be able to see, but they can create problems for you because you're blind to them. And the blind spot path, that's usually going to be how we act and behave around people we're really comfortable with. And so it's not like you're going to act like this all the time, but maybe when you're with your family or people you trust, this part of your personality can come out. And so what I want to do today is just identify some blind spots for each type that you can look out for. In the end, the Enneagram is an amazing tool for self-observation so we can become aware and awake to the way our personality operates. And you know, I'm going to say self-awareness is key. And so for me, my blind spot does come out around my family sometimes, and I am so aware of it now that I'm able to go in my own head, be like, okay, Hillary, that's a little much. And so I'm able to just be aware of it and, you know, choose a healthier path if need be. But what I want you to remember is some of these can be a little harsh. Some of these are going to be uncomfortable. It's okay. All of us have them. We're all in this together, right? And so just remember, some of these are just coming from you moving towards a number, the average to unhealthy side of a number. Okay, so type 1s, you're up. I'm going to go ahead and start with your blind spots first. So for the 1, where did they go? Well, their healthy arrow is the 7. And so for their blind spot, it's that average to unhealthy side of the 7. And what that will look like for the 1 is they're going to become more self-focused, but maybe not in the healthiest way, even like greedy. They might indulge in unhealthy things that normally they wouldn't. And what this is doing is helping them be distracted from their inner critic. And so that's why they tend to do that. And the big blind spot for the 1 to look out for, and this doesn't have to do with you moving towards down that path, but it's just a blind spot for the 1, is criticism. I think the 1 thinks that they are being helpful or making the world a better place when they are starting to become critical. So when they criticize the 1, they might actually think that they're just trying to help make the world a better place type of thing. But I think what they don't always understand is how harsh it can come out. It can actually come out as like nagging criticism to some people, and other people can see that, but sometimes the 1 can't see that. And what I've heard is that a type 1, when people do let them know like, hey, that was a little harsh, that sounds like criticism, they're surprised by this. They're like, well, I'm just trying to help. And so that is just, if you're a 1, that's just something to look out for. It might be a blind spot for you. Maybe it's not either. Some of these might not be your blind spots. Some of these you guys actually might already know, but if not, I love just bringing awareness to them so that, you know, that you are living down the healthiest path possible for your type. Okay, so let's move on to the type 2's blind spot. Again, I'm only doing a few per number, guys. I want to keep this video as short and as sweet as possible, just enough info to help you guys out. So the 2, where do they go if it's their blind spot? They move to the average to the unhealthy side of the type 4. They might start to be, you know, really emotional, act overly sensitive, things like that. They will get hurt, express disappointment, start to withdraw. A big one for the 2 is they might indulge in things and not even realize why they're doing it. And I would say one big thing to look out for if you are a type 2 is when you're becoming moody and temperamental, what's going on? Ask yourself, okay, what's wrong? this is not the norm for the 2. And so that gives you a chance to kind of like dig deeper and go, okay, something's definitely wrong. This moodiness is not my everyday. And I would just say dig deeper and figure out the root of it. Okay, so let's go on to the type 3's blind spots. They move to the average to the unhealthy side of a 6. Here's a big one for the 3. When you start to notice that you're not trusting people, you're becoming suspicious, you might be thinking people have a hidden agenda, things like that, that probably means that you're going to that average to unhealthy side of the 6. Look into that, ask yourself why. That's not your normal everyday. Another blind spot for the 3 is they hate being blamed. And when this happens, they will get really upset. A lot of times they might just decide to be done with the person. Like if they're getting blamed, they might not actually want to like walk through the process and ask them why or what's going on. They might just be like, you know what, I'm done, and walk the other way versus working it out. And so look for that if that is your blind spot. Okay, so here's a big one, and I have noticed this in my type 3 son, is when they start to get a negative attitude, I think that a lot of times they're blind to it. They don't realize that their attitude is super negative, especially with the people they're closest to. I think just that blind spot is they don't realize that they're even being negative. Okay, so let's move on to the type 4's blind spot. Where do they go? Well, that path that they traveled down is the average to the unhealthy side of a 1. And what does this look like for them? They might start to focus on flaws, becoming more loud about what they see as wrong. They could be blind to their own positive aspects of who they are and how great they are. They can actually be blind to that. If you are a 4 watching this and you notice yourself start to become more judgmental, critical, impatient, controlling, annoyed with things that they see as not good enough, that would be a blind spot that is really good for you to be aware of and know, like, why am I going that way? The last thing for you to look out for if you are a type 4 is look out if you are starting to become really critical on yourself. That might be a blind spot for you too. Okay, so let's move on to the type 5's blind spots. Where do they go? The average to unhealthy side of the type 8. A big one for them is they're really into like the facts of things, right? Which is fine. But when someone tells them that they might be incorrect, they are going to argue that point. They are going to debate all about it to the death of it sometimes with the people that they are secure with. Also, if they feel betrayed or not taken seriously, they are going to become vengeful, which is surprising, but it can happen, or aggressive. One thing for the 5s to look out for is you could be blind to the value of emotions and having that deeper, meaningful relationship with people. That's something to look out for because it is really important, but sometimes the 5 won't even realize that it would be important. And the last one for the 5 is with people they are most secure with, they actually are going to be a little bit more arrogant and make sure to let you know their opinions and thoughts, which, come on, I do agree, like I want to know their opinions and thoughts, but it's the part to look out for is like the arrogance of it. And so that could be blind to you. I don't know. Okay, so let's move on to the type 6's blind spot. Where do they go? Well, they go to the average to unhealthy side of the 9. They will withdraw and shut down and not realize why they are doing it. They might start to become passive aggressive so that they don't have to have any confrontations. I can understand that one. When they are bothered or interrupted, they get upset, and that they might not realize that they do that. They might even start to feel like people are asking way too much of them. They start to feel overwhelmed, and then they get angry. And so that's a blind spot for the 6. And the last one for the 6 is they can be blind to their own fears and even project those on the world. And so they don't even realize that they're doing that. Okay, so that type 7, where do they move in their blind spot? Well, they move to the average to unhealthy side of a type 5. Here's a big one. They will stop being so positive. So they might just become really tired and want to withdraw. They also will start to not trust people and not want to be around them at all. A big one for them is they will really take on that observer part of the type 5 and use less energy and become secluded to recharge, which this is why it's a blind spot. This is not normal for a 7, but they might do this with the people they're most comfortable with, right? All that to say, like, not all of these are terrible things, right? I'm just saying these are blind spots that you don't even realize you might do. And one big one for the 7 to look out for is if you start to become pessimistic or cynical, that's not normal for you. And so just be aware when that happens. Okay, so let's move on to the type 8's blind spots. Where do they go? Well, they go to the average to unhealthy side of a 2. A big one is they're going to start to look for ways to have people depend on them. So it could look like, they're doing for people or whatever that is where people have to depend on them. They might start to let people know like, hey, I need to be appreciated here. I am doing a lot. You need to appreciate me type of stuff, which is true, but it's probably the delivery is what we're looking at, where they can start to, kind of get a little bit more upset in that and go, hey, I need this, I want this, please give it to me, type of thing. Another one for the 8 is they will start to become almost like too helpful, overly helpful, and start to overstep people's boundaries. And the last one for the 8 is they might not be able to see their own vulnerability and weaknesses. So, all right, let's move on to the last one, which is the type 9, the type 9's blind spots. And where do they move? Like I said at the beginning of this, they move to the average to unhealthy side of the 3. And what does that look like? Well, they get easily hurt when people start to point out their flaws. And especially if they aren't aware of those flaws, they're going to feel totally caught off guard. I know that this has happened to me so many times where somebody might point something out at me and I'm like, I didn't even know that. And instead of taking it as constructive, I get really hurt over it. Okay, so here's a big one for me. This is so true for me. They start to brag about their own accomplishments and worth and value to the people they are most secure with. And that's a big one for me. I'm a 9 and you wouldn't think that, but yeah, with my husband and kids or whatever, I start to brag. I start to be like, yeah, I did this or did that, which here's the deal. Is that a good thing? Yes, I should be aware and want to share them, but maybe bragging is too much. I don't know. All I can say is I'm really glad that it's no longer a blind spot in me, that I'm aware so that it doesn't come off as like, yeah, I'm so good. Because that can happen. Okay, so I've talked about this one in other videos before, but one thing for the 9s, they will do everything that's easy and that will keep them super busy so that they don't have to do the harder things, procrastination. But that's how the 9 can be, especially just in their everyday where it's like, I'm going to do all these easy things first and not do those hard things until like the very last minute. But I don't know about you guys if you're a 9, but for me, when I wait till the last minute, I'm able to do it, get it done and do it well. And so it does work for me. I wouldn't say it's the best plan I've ever had. I usually find myself super stressed out and I don't know, not in a good place when I do that, but it can be done. And the last one I would say is 9s can be really forgetful. They can be blind to that. They don't even realize that they're forgetful. Sometimes they will say yes when they mean to say no, and then not carry through on that yes and just kind of ignore it. That can happen and they could be blind to that. So the important thing for the 9 is learn to say no. Let your no be no and your yes be yes. I learned that the total hard way. Okay, so we're done. What did you guys think about blind spots? What's your type? Can you relate to any of these? Leave those in the comments box below. You guys know I love hearing from you. And I love hearing your thoughts and your opinions. And if you go, yeah, I could totally understand that is my blind spot, or no way, no, that's not my blind spot at all. I'd love to know. We're all in this together. We're all learning together. I think in the end, the great thing about becoming aware of blind spots is when you find yourself in these situations and you feel, now that you're aware of them, now that they're in your mind and you know about them, you'll start to catch yourself in the act and go, okay, I'm aware of it now. And what you do with it from there is, on you, and you get to decide, and that's okay. But I think the key here is the more awareness, the more growth, and then the more grace and understanding for yourself and others. And so you guys know that's why I teach you guys the Enneagram on this platform. And if you've gotten to this point and you don't even know your type and you're like, yeah, I just clicked on this video, I think I'm this, or I think I'm that, or I don't even know about the Enneagram, but I'd love to, I have great news for you then. I have a bunch of different things that you can pick from on my website. I'll link that down below. I offer a 1-hour Discover You typing session. I offer monthly coaching. I only have a couple of those slots open at a time, but definitely check those out. I also do Discover Your Team, where I do these Zoom calls with these teams, and that's really fun. But anyways, there's even more than that. I do typing for couples and different things like that. So all of that is down below in the description box. Go click on my website and find out more information if you would like to. And before we go, don't forget, guys, to please push subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate every single one of you. We hit 5,000 today, guys. Oh my gosh, a big thank you to you guys. I wouldn't be here without you. I appreciate every single person that pushes that subscribe button and that tunes in to watch my videos. I love teaching you guys. And if you liked this video and you want more like this, hit the thumbs up. I really appreciate that. But that's all I have today. So until next time, bye guys.